Le scommesse causano dipendenza, rovinano famiglie e infatti non le consiglio e non collaboro con brand di scommesse. Stranamente però, le scommesse sono utili a prevedere il futuro. Se 600 persone scommettono che Trump vincerà le elezioni e 400 che invece vincerà la Harris, possiamo immaginare che anche nella realtà Trump abbia il 60% delle possibilità di vittoria. Più persone scommettono e maggiore sarà la precisione. In gergo si dice che il mercato di questa previsione è calibrato. Nei prediction markets, appunto i mercati delle previsioni, a differenza dei sondaggi normali, quando fai la previsione metti anche i tuoi soldi in ballo e questo ti incentiva ad essere responsabile con quello che dici, altrimenti perdi soldi. Quando invece non c'è una posta in gioco, puoi dire tutte le stupidaggini che vuoi senza conseguenze. In gergo questo concetto si chiama skin in the game. Quando c'è skin in the game, di solito le cose funzionano meglio. Quindi se da un lato le scommesse sono generalmente nocive per le persone, dall'altro possono anche avere un'utilità sociale per aiutarci a comprendere effettivamente il mondo. Una soluzione per evitare gli effetti collaterali è usare i soldi finti al posto dei soldi veri. Vari studi hanno dimostrato che anche puntare ai soldi immaginari funziona comunque, mantenendo i mercati calibrati. Ed è così che sono nati siti di prediction markets come Manifold Markets, dove al posto dei soldi veri puoi utilizzare il mana. Manifold non mi paga per questo video né in soldi reali che in soldi immaginari, ma dato che ero molto curioso sull'argomento, sono andato a San Francisco per parlare con il fondatore e capirci di più. Si chiama Stephen, ha cofondato Manifold 2 anni fa, è laureato in informatica a Yale, ha lavorato in finanza e prima ha anche fondato una startup che si chiama Thron. Dopodiché però l'ha abbandonata per dedicarsi full time a Manifold.
So Manifold is around 2 years old. As of right now, we have around 100,000 total users, around 2,000 daily active users, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 monthly active users. We have around 4 million in total funding, pretty good calibration score.
Do you already make money?
We're focusing on users and growth, but we do make some money.
Yeah, but it's not your focus right now. You focus on growth.
Right.
Yeah, that's because you get fundings, right?
Classic Silicon Valley story.
How did you get fundings? Who gave it to you?
This is a very interesting question. So our lead investor for our seed round was actually FTX, very infamously. But we have a few other angels and top-tier investors as well. And we've also been lucky and fortunate enough to have received grants from people within the effective altruist community.
Why prediction markets are good for society and not bad? Because people can say betting in general is a bad thing. Why prediction markets are a good thing for society?
Prediction markets produce valuable, calibrated forecasts on important questions. This is useful in pretty much every domain that you can imagine. From, public health, when we launched Manifold, we were already a few years into the COVID pandemic, but having helpful and accurate forecasts on what the incidence rate of diseases like that are going to be, the efficacy of various interventions, etc., that directly impacts people's lives. And, that's just one small domain. Prediction markets are useful in everything from the election. Companies and other people make valuable decisions depending on who they think is going to win. Even in your personal life, you can ask our markets what your dating prospects are and other things, and that'll impact how you live.
Tell me more about the concept of calibration. What does it mean and why it's important?
Right. So the thing that we're looking for is calibration across the entire platform. So a platform like Manifold has a bunch of different prediction markets on a variety of questions. Each of those questions has a current price which corresponds to a probability, like 70% or 55% in the case of the current US presidential market. If a market is well calibrated, in very simple terms, that means that you can trust that number that the market gives you. If the current price of a market is at 50%, and in a well-calibrated ecosystem, you look at all of the markets that are at 50%, and then you see how they resolve. And if the market is well-calibrated, then half of them should resolve yes, and half of them should resolve no.
You don't use real money right now. You use mana. Does it affect calibration? Because people are less incentivized to be right.
So as of a few weeks ago, we've introduced a new currency into our platform, which allows people to withdraw money. Right now, it's limited only to people in the US. But for most of our existence over the last couple of years, we've been in a play money only world. And what we found is that it is motivating to people because of the game-like and competitive aspects. People are both trying to impress their friends, impress random strangers on the internet, and also to just build up an objective track record over time, showing how good they are at forecasting things. This is my brother.
Of course. Hi, nice to meet you. Did you see any changes in the quality of the markets after you put new currency that you can actually convert in real money?
Too soon to say. This product has only been live for a few weeks. We can look at the results after the election and once we have a few months more of track record behind us.
For you, it's better for calibration and everything to incentivize as much as possible people to be right. So convert mana or currency in real money is a good thing, but also it makes you more similar to a classical betting company. What would you say about that? Because sometimes betting can be addicting, can be a problem.
First of all, since there are already multiple small, well-capitalized companies that are focused just on betting, they are going after the problem gamblers and they're already on their platform. This is not a market we're pursuing. And the user base that we attract tends to be a little bit different as well. People who are more interested in forecasting as a thing in and of itself.
Quindi solo in America chi compra mana ottiene anche sweep cash, che possono essere convertiti in dollari. Da un punto di vista legale, questi bonus li ottieni gratis, non li puoi pagare. La definizione di sweepstakes è proprio quella di bonus che non ottieni pagando.
How did you manage to get approved to do that, actually?
Partially, we were looking at other players in adjacent industries and discovered this sweepstakes model. It's a feature of US law. There are a number of sites out there which have been operating for decades, which use the sweepstakes model mostly to provide gaming products. So there's a sweepstakes poker site. But we realized it was a good fit for our site because of the play money aspect of our product. Typically, all of these are structured where they have a pure play money coin or token, and then they have a separate sweepstakes coin or token. And that's the one that allows you to be eligible to withdraw real cash. We have this very extensive play money economy already built up. It was a more natural model for us to explore.
What kind of bets are the most common?
So we're in the middle of an election cycle right now. So that's the presidential election. It just, occupies the vast majority of users' attention right now. Everyone is interested in seeing who will win. And there have been a lot of other exciting events this cycle as well, including Biden stepping down, the attempted assassinations on Trump, etc. And that's driven a lot of interest in our platform. Outside of that, though, in general, the biggest topics on our platform are politics, then technology, and then within technology, AI. We have a lot of focus on AI markets, AI timelines, product releases, speculation on GPT-5.
GPT-5, of
then boardroom drama,
Okay.
what will Sam Altman do next?
Yep.
Unfortunately, right now, our sweepstakes markets are limited only to Americans in 46 states. So if you are in one of these places, which includes California and New York, you cannot buy sweep cash directly. You merely receive it as a bonus for purchasing mana. Right before FTX collapsed, we had a market on whether FTX US, which SBF at the time claimed was a totally separate entity that was completely solvent in everything, whether they would halt withdrawals. After the FTX in Bahamas was imploding, that market shot up to 40% or something. Since Manifold had, a very tiny fraction of our treasury there in crypto on FTX, this number scared me and caused me to pull all of our funds out.
It saved you a lot of money, I would say.
Yeah. One of the very first markets that we created also was useful for helping us think about our business strategy. So early on, we weren't sure whether we wanted to sell mana at all. So we created a conditional market on whether if we launched mana sales, would we keep this around at least for another month? So because in that world, that means it's probably a success. We launched this and then traders bid this market up very high to 85%, 90%. And so then we decided to actually do it. One of the first big business decisions that we made. The reason effective altruists and EA funders are interested in this space is because they care a lot about forecasting. They're one of the main funders of forecasting tools and platforms. The reason is mostly that forecasting is just incredibly useful in a variety of domains. It's useful in a very narrow sense in helping people allocate philanthropic funds. They want to know how the efficacy of various interventions and which cause areas are most likely to be impactful. But it also is just useful more broadly for society in general to just be able to know which things are important. How big of a deal is AI going to be? When will various AI capabilities be unlocked?
Getting back on the business model, if you have to summarize it, what do you think is going to be?
Right now, I think probably mana sales and redemption. So right now, the rate that we charge for mana, decreases the more of it you purchase. So if you're purchasing a very small amount, you'll pay a higher rate. If you're purchasing a large amount, you'll pay a very low rate. Similarly, we also charge a withdrawal fee in the cash prize environment.
Transactions, I would say. What is your vision for the future?
In a world where Manifold wins, that means basically every New York Times article, all of the blogs that you read, all of your favorite YouTubers are incorporating markets into their analyses. In this world, that will replace people looking at polling numbers. It'll replace people citing expert consensus.
Yeah.
I think it also is a broader change in how people think as well.
Yeah, more rational way.
Yeah.
Do you already have the plugin for the API?
You can embed our markets directly into your own content, into blog posts, tweets, Substacks.
Ok, vediamo adesso come funziona effettivamente.
When you sign up, we give you play money to start with and use the play money to trade in markets. What you're actually doing are buying shares that will pay out $1 or 1 mana in this case if an event occurs.
Quindi nel mercato sull'eventuale vittoria di Trump alle elezioni, quotata al 54%, io pago quella percentuale di 1 mana, quindi 54 centesimi di mana. Se perdo avrò perso 54 centesimi. Se vinco invece riprendo un mana intero. Su Manifold io posso scommettere sui mercati delle previsioni degli altri, oppure posso creare delle scommesse da zero, sempre spendendo vendendo mana.
If you want to get more mana, you can pay for that or you can refer other friends, right?
That's right, yeah.
Sul sito di Manifold un elemento di discussione è quante persone servono in una scommessa per renderla calibrata. I dati suggeriscono che possono bastare anche 15 persone.
So typically, markets get better and are more calibrated the greater the number of traders, but it's not a simple
It's not a rule.
relationship.
Yeah.
Even a market with just like a tiny handful of traders can be pretty well calibrated. And similarly, some large markets can be distorted for longer than you would expect. So these are just like general statistical tendencies.
And what about volumes on Manifold? How many manas are traded every day or something like that? Do you know that?
We do record this on our stats page.
Effettivamente sulla pagina delle statistiche di Manifold potete vedere la loro crescita negli ultimi anni. E se vi fate un giro più approfondito sul loro sito trovate anche i link ai vari studi riguardanti il funzionamento dei prediction markets, gli studi sulla calibrazione e tutto il resto.
In an ideal situation, how big is going to be your valuation? Like, how big can you be?
I think pretty big. I think Manifold could easily be a multi-billion-dollar company. If you look at other comparable businesses, we kind of straddle the line between social media companies, gaming and sportsbook companies, exchanges, and analytics tools. Each of these things are pretty large.
Yep.
If we're both providing tremendous value to society through our forecasts, and it's also fun for people to predict and speculate on, that's a very powerful combination of things.
Do you have big competitors here in the States or in the world?
Sure, yeah. So there are a few real money prediction market platforms, both within and outside of the US.
Okay.
So those include Polymarket, which is a crypto platform and is technically inaccessible to Americans. And then most recently, there's both Kalshi and Predictit been able to launch real money markets on the presidential election. Then there's also Predictit also in the US.
So that's quite a good thing. You have some competition, right? Because
That's right. It validates like the
model.
market.
Yeah.
Quindi i prediction markets sono scommesse e a quanto pare le scommesse funzionano meglio dei sondaggi per prevedere il futuro. E questa è una cosa non da poco. Poter avere una rappresentazione chiara e oggettiva di quello che veramente secondo le persone è quello che accadrà nel mondo è un servizio utile in 1000 occasioni differenti. Per cui l'ho trovato un tema molto interessante. Soprattutto scoprire che no profit investono per far crescere e nascere siti di scommesse. Per fare questo sito sono tornato a San Francisco la seconda volta quest'anno. Ero già stato realizzando altri video sulla Silicon Valley e sulle università e in questa seconda occasione ho portato a casa un sacco di altre interviste.